Hello and welcome to the tutorial video for Zogar's Revenge. Zogar's Revenge is a solo play dungeon crawler, a little bit of a puzzly type game. Like you just saw, it comes in the small pro box from the Game Crafter. So it's a pretty nice little box. Everything fits in there easily. It's essentially nothing but punch out tiles and chits. There are no dice in this game, so there's a lot of strategy involved and a lot of thinking ahead. So we're going to do a little walkthrough of the game so you can see how the game plays. I don't know exactly if we're going to complete it or not, but we'll see how far we can go. Let's go over the components basically. What we have here is your dungeon made up of 25 tiles, and if you look in the actual manual, there's an extra sheet that gives different layouts that makes the game more difficult. So this is the basic layout of 5x5 grid. The only different type of tiles in here are your center tile here, which is your ladder, which is where you enter into the dungeon. And then the reverse side of that, you have the crown, which is your actual goal in the game is to retrieve the crown and then make it back out of the dungeon. Then in each of the four corners, you'll notice I have these lamps that are lit. Your first objective is going to be to turn these lamps off. And once those four lamps are turned off, then your actual ladder tile is flipped to reveal the crown, which is in a secret room. You make your way to the crown, retrieve the crown, but then you need to get that ladder to come back. So the only way to do that is to turn the lamps back on. So you'll go back through the dungeon, turn the lamps back on, revealing the staircase, and you'll make your exit. That's essentially the goal of the game, but there's, as you can see, all sorts of bad guys and these eyeballs you're probably wondering about, along with these treasure chests, which probably seems pretty self-explanatory, and it is. So let's go over some of the other components in the game. So you have your dungeon, you have your player tiles here, and these will be used to deal with these enemies. As you can see, each one of these enemies has a value or amount of power that they have. That's how much you need to have in order to defeat them. We'll go over exactly how that works in a minute. You have two character tiles or chits. One side has a female character and the other side has a male character. When I printed this prototype, I messed up, and both of these tiles are the same on both sides. So the final version that you'll order or own would have the female on one side and the male on the other side for both tiles. So you'll have one of these will be placed on the number 3. So your tiles have to be laid out a certain way when you start the game here, and then you will place your character here, and you'll place your other character here to symbolize your character actually in the dungeon. Over here you have your health chits. You have 15 of them. You start with all of them. You can never have more than 15. Over here you have, let's go over these. These are your the spot tokens or spot chits, and these are Zogar himself realizing you're in his dungeon. There's 14 of them, and you'll acquire them in all different sorts of ways. But if you ever, at any moment, have all 14 of them, the game ends and Zogar himself captures you. The other way to lose the game is obviously to run out of health, so some of his minions, if they happen to kill you along the way, you'll also lose the game. You'll be gaining points throughout the game by these treasure tokens and also from getting the crown. So as soon as you turn off these lamps and then reveal the crown, make your way to the crown. And once you actually have it, you'll take this tile here that has the picture of the crown. It says 10 victory points on it, and then you'll own that. That's 10 points. So if you happen to die moments later, you'll at least have 10 points. You can note your score and then try again and see if you can beat the dungeon. Other ways to get points is in the treasure. So let's go over the different types of treasure you may come across. First, you have money, which equates to points at the end of the game. It does not help you in the game, but it gives you points for the end of the game for your total. You have little bronze coins worth 1, you have silver worth 2, and you have gold worth 3. So these will be placed in here. You start with no treasure, so we'll mix those in so we don't know where they are. Let's go over the other treasures that you might find in the dungeon. Well, there's 3 helpful items. You have a potion, a healing potion, so if you come across that, you can hold on to it or use it right away, and you gain one of your health chits back. So that's one thing you can find. Another thing you might find is this cross, and when you have a cross in your inventory, and whenever you do something that might trigger you getting a spot token, you can spend this chit and you can negate having to take one of these tokens. Obviously you don't want to get those because that is bad. Lastly, the last good item that you can find is a sword or a dagger, and this augments your attack essentially. So say you move to here, you do 6 damage, you can spend this to do 7. Okay. Those are all one-use items. Once you use them, they go away. Well, just like any good dungeon delver, you're going to have bad things happen when you open up a chest. The first thing that happens is you can get spotted. Now, I like to think that when you're opening the chest, it makes a loud, creaky noise and alerts Zogar himself to you being in his dungeon. So sometimes you open up a chest and just make a little bit too much noise. Another thing that can happen is a trap. Of course, you got to have traps and treasures, right? So there's always a little bit of a risk taking a treasure. For the most part, though, it's going to be a reward. But once in a while, you get a bad thing happening. A trap, obviously, will just remove 1 point of health from you. So really quickly, let's go over 2 aspects of the game. You have exploration. In the beginning of the game, when all your torches are lit, you can move to any place you want, and you don't have to flip any tiles, you just move there. So you know where you're going. That is to simulate that the dungeon is lit up. So I could say, oh, I want to go to this treasure chest. So I can go there, take a treasure token, and then just keep on moving. However, while all the lamps are lit, or while the lamps are lit, period, when you move, you have to flip the tile that you leave behind. The only exception for this is obviously the initial tile you're leaving. So you don't leave the ladder and then turn it and make it a crown. That stays a ladder. But when I move away from this treasure chest, say, to go explore this treasure chest, I then have to flip this tile to reveal whatever's on the other side. Now, what's on the other side, I don't know. The way that these tiles are designed is that some of them will be the exact same thing on the other side, and some of them will be something good or something bad. So even if you play the game numerous times, you're never going to be quite sure what's behind every single tile. You might get sort of used to some of the tiles, but you're never going to master the game. And that's where the different maps and layouts come into play. So once you master the simple level, and once you get to the point where you're winning most of the time, you can challenge yourself with a different layout that really pushes your memory to the limit. So as you're exploring the dungeon, you're flipping the tiles behind you that you leave behind to reveal something different. See, this one here went from a treasure chest to an enemy. Once all the lamps are off and you're starting to maybe head towards getting your the crown in the center or whatnot, the way that the tile flip changes. And now how it works is you flip the tile you're about to go to and you leave the tile that you're leaving alone. So for instance, if I wanted to go this way, I'd have to flip this tile, and then I made that commitment, so now I have to deal with whatever happens to be there. So it's important as you're exploring the dungeon in the beginning and you're flipping tiles over and exploring to kind of try to remember what was left behind, because when you're later on in the game, you're going to be coming back through the dungeon and flipping the tiles over before you go to them, and knowing what's there is going to be very helpful. So that's essentially how the dungeon works, and you're going to see that in play in a moment. This is the player tile. So how this works, these are the player tiles, and how this works is only comes into play during combat. So if I happen to say I'm going to go fight this guy, he's got a value of 4. So say I'm fighting him value 4, I have to move my tile to one of the adjacent spots. So I can go to this 6 or I can go to this 5, and that's how much damage I'm going to deal. Well, either one's going to beat this foe. So that sounds great, right? So I go to the 5 so I can save my 6 for later. But every time you move, you have to flip the tile you left behind, revealing a different value. Okay? Oh, that's great. So now I have a 2. My 3 turned into a 2. So now, when I go to fight this guy here, say I want to go this way, he has a value 3. I see that, knowing going into that tile that I have to have a value 3. Well, I know I'm not going to be able to go this way because that won't be enough to kill him. I'd have to go this way. So let's just do that for instance. So I say go here to fight this guy. Value 2 isn't going to be enough. Now later on, once you get more advanced in the game, you might want to actually do that, but we'll get into that in a minute. Let's say I go this way, I beat him, now I got to flip this 5, or what's on the other side of this 5? An eyeball. Not good. So what this is a built-in timing mechanic. So the longer you're in the dungeon, the more you expose yourself to combat, the more these eyes are going to come up. So behind the 5 and behind the 6 are eyes. So essentially, eventually you're trapped and you're forced to move to an eye, taking a spot token into your inventory, and then doing 0 damage, obviously, to your enemy, which means you have to take damage. So let's go over a quick battle where I will be losing some health so you can understand how that works. So let's say These are my options right now. And let's say we're later in the game and I'm exploring. I want to go to this tile. I don't know what's behind it. I don't remember. So I flip it over. Oh, it's a Cyclops. That's no good for me. He's got a health of power of 6 or health of 6, however you want to look at it. And here's where I'm at on my player tiles. So I could go here and I could take an eye and take a spot token, or I can deal 5 damage right away. So that's what I'm going to do. So I'm going to move from here to here, and I'm going to deal the 5 damage, flipping this tile because I left it back over. So now he has 5 damage, but that's not enough to beat him, so he still has 1 left. Since he is still alive after my first hit, he does 1 damage to me, so I lose a health. Now it's my turn, and I can choose to go to the 4 or the 3, and either one's going to beat him, so I will go to the 3. That will flip my 5 over to a spot. But I did 3 more damage, so I defeat the Cyclops. You don't get any treasures or rewards from beating enemies. You just get the valor of getting past them. So let's reset this to how it starts off in the beginning, and actually attempt to get through this dungeon. Let's see how far we can get. Okay, well, obviously we don't want that revealed. So give me one moment, and we'll come back, and we will actually try to explore this dungeon. Okay, we're back in the dungeon. I haven't changed anything. Actually, when you set up the dungeon, I should have mentioned you basically put your lit torches in the 4 corners, your ladder in the center, and you get the other 20 tiles that are double-sided. Kind of just shuffle them up, and you just sort of try to blindly place them into all these spots to form this grid, not really knowing what's on either side. Obviously, you don't want to cheat, so just kind of just quickly do it, and then you form your dungeon randomly. So at the beginning of the game, you kind of want to get a few items. So you got to sort of plan your route. So I'm going to try to do this kind of the smart way, and we'll see how it goes. Since the torches are lit, I'm going to move. Have to flip the tile behind me. Like I said, I don't flip the ladder tile. So I land on a treasure token. I get to take a treasure. So let's just take one randomly from here. Oh, great. I start the game with an eye. So Zogar heard me as soon as I stepped foot in his dungeon. So I place that into a discard. I take an eye. So I already have 1. If I get to 14, like mentioned, I lose the game. Okay, so let's try this again. Obviously, I don't want to go there because I'm just going to take an eye token. So I will go here. First thing before I take the reward or resolve the tile I land on, I need to remember to flip that tile that I left behind. Otherwise, you'll forget to do it. We got a bad guy behind it. But now I have to remember, underneath him is a treasure. So later in the game, I might want to actually go to that tile. Okay, so I landed on a treasure here. Let's take another treasure, see if we get some. What is going on here? This is not a good way to start the game. Okay, so I get exploded right away. A little bomb went off, so I lose a health. Okay, this might be a short tutorial after all. Either way I go here to get to this torch, I got to fight a goblin. So let's just go, let's go this way. So now I'm in combat, but before I actually resolve this token on this tile I landed on, I got to remember to flip that tile behind me. Try to remember that there is a treasure underneath this eyeball. See if I can remember that. Okay, so there is a little bit of memory in this game. So now I have to deal with this 3. Which way do I want to go? Obviously, I want to keep this 6 in case I come across a Cyclops, because that's the toughest monster in the dungeon. So I will move to here, doing 5 damage to the goblin, and the goblin is defeated. I have to flip this tile over since I left it, revealing a 2. Now I'm going to move and turn off this torch. So when you turn off torches or turn on torches, it's the only time in the game where essentially when you land on it, the action happens, and then you keep your tile there. Okay, so now this torch is off. Now I need to make my way to one of these other torches. Both ways do not look very promising. I don't want to deal with that Cyclops quite yet, so I think I'm going to head down this way. So now I have this guy to deal with. Okay, so he is going to be 3, a power of 3, this goblin. And again, the torches act just like the ladder. Obviously, I'm not going to flip this one as I leave it because that'd be ridiculous. I'd be turning the light back on. Okay, so we have this goblin to deal with. He has life of 3. If I go here, I'm not going to beat him. Obviously, the smart thing to do, it seems, is to go to here, do 4 damage, and I beat the goblin. I have to flip my 5 over, and that reveals an eye. So the goblin is taken care of. Now I'm going to have to go this way. I believe that's the smart way to go. Yes, I don't want to deal with that I don't want to take all these eyes right away early in the game. I want Zogar finding me right away. So I'm going to go here before I resolve that. I flip this. Oh, see, that one had a goblin behind it. Very interesting. So I got to remember that if I can. So we have a zombie or a cultist or whatever you want to call this guy, a crazed looking maniac. Value of 4. Well, the only way I can go here really is to the 6 without taking any damage. Do I want to burn that 6 right away? It looks like I have a pretty decent path going this way to the other torch. So I think I'm fine to burn my 6 early. That might be a mistake. We will find out. That 4, as you can see, which is a decent attack, turns into a 1. So that's not good. As you can see, my options are getting bad. I'm eventually going to get injured here. But I do defeat him handedly, and now I have to decide which way I want to go. If you notice here in this treasure chest and this treasure chest here, there's a little eyeball icon. That means that, yeah, sure, you find the treasure, but you also have to take a spot token. So some treasures automatically give you a spot token. Do I want to go? I don't want to go that way, because then I'm gonna have to deal with the Cyclops, and my player tiles are kind of messed up right now. So I'm going to just go ahead and take a spot token. First, I'm going to flip this. So there is a goblin behind that zombie or that maniac, and I'll take this. Oh, what am I doing? Taking a treasure. That's not how you play the game. You have to take a spot token, Jason. Okay, so I have 2 spot tokens. Not so bad. I haven't lost. Oh, I lost 1 health. So I'll put that health over here so we can kind of keep an eye on how much health I'm losing. Okay, so now I'm going to move to this torch, and then I'm going to flip this tile behind me. Oh, so this tile has an eye on both sides. This flips over and now reveals this. Very nice. Okay, I got 2 torches turned off. I'm halfway to getting that crown revealed. Now I'm going to move to here and hopefully get something good this time. Oh, I got a silver, so that's worth 2 points at the end of the game. So essentially this isn't really helping me right now. It's just giving me points at the end of the game. So it's nice to have, but it would be really good early in the game to get some potions or some swords or some crosses are really helpful. So now here's the situation here. I have to fight this goblin. He's easier. So I'm going to go there. I'm going to flip this treasure over. So it's a treasure on the other side, but this treasure has an eyeball on it. And the reason for that is so in case there's 2 treasures next to each other, essentially you could just go back and forth forever, infinitely, and drain all the treasures. Well, you really can't, because even if it has a treasure on both sides, the other side will have an eye. You'll eventually kill yourself. You'll get captured eventually. So let's deal with this goblin. If I go here, I'm only going to do 2 damage. If I go here, I'm only going to do 1 damage. The 6 is going to become an eyeball. Yeah, this is not good. I'm going to lose some life here. So which way do I want to go? So this is where sometimes taking damage is good, because you get a chance to reset your player tile. So I'm going to go this way. So the 6 is going to become a 1. I do 1 damage, so he still has 2 life. Then I am going to, and because he's still alive, he's going to do 1 damage to me, so I lose a heart. Now it's my turn to go, and I'm going to go to this spot token. So I'm going to get another spot token. That's 3 spot tokens. And I still haven't killed him, so I lose another life. So this is not going greatly for me. However, since I left this tile, this gets to flip to a 4, right? And now I'm moving from this tile to my 2. So the 2, I already did 1 damage before. So now this goblin is gone, and this eyeball gets reset to 5. So now I'm actually, did I lose both those lives? Yes, I lost 2 lives. I lost 1 here and 1 here. So I lost 2 lives in that battle, but it allowed me to reset my player tiles quite a bit. So now I'm in decent shape in case something nasty comes up. So now I'm going to keep moving. Turn this tile over. Oh, another goblin on the back side of that. And what do we got here? Oh, a treasure. Let's get something good. Let's get something. Are you kidding me? Another eyeball. Okay, so I think this is going to be tough game for me. Okay, so now we're going to move from here. Let's flip this one over. Ooh, a gargoyle left behind. And we're going to flip that torch off. So I got 3 of the 4 torches are turned off. And what am I going to do here? Let's think here. I'm going to try to do something. I need to plow through these bad guys and get to that last torch, I think. I mean, this is a terrible section of the dungeon. This is It's bad now. Hopefully there's some good things behind them. I'm just going to go for it. So I'm going to go here. I'm going to do something a little differently here. So the 3, I could just do the 5 damage, and but that's going to basically waste that 5. So what I'm going to do instead, this is where the strategy comes in on these tiles here, is I'm going to go to this eye, right? That's going to allow me to flip this to a 3. Okay, but since I didn't hurt him, I do lose 1 life. Now it's my turn, and I'm going to do 4 damage to him. Flip this back to a 6, and now I have beaten him. Now I have this gargoyle here, so I'm going to go after him. Flip this one behind me, another goblin behind that. Gargoyle has 5. Well, I foreseen that. I knew that was going to happen, that I'd set myself up to have this 5 available by moving to here. So now I will go use this 5. The 4 becomes a 1 again. And I've beaten the gargoyle. And now I can move on to this goblin, flip the another gargoyle behind that. And now I have this goblin here with a value of 3, and I can go right back to where basically I started. Flip this 5 to an eyeball, and I have beaten the goblin. So by going the way I just did, I was able to just basically plow right through all these guys, and I only lost 1 life. So that wasn't as nasty as I thought it was going to be. So now we'll go to this torch, flip this guy behind me. Ooh, another Cyclops. I am don't have much options here. Oh, this is actually going to work out good. Look where my player tiles are. You can maybe notice that right away. Okay, so now that is off, and all 4 of the torches are off. This is sort of like Zelda. I played a lot of Zelda growing up. You turned off all the torches in the room, or a lot of RPGs on the computer or Nintendo. What happens? A secret room is revealed. So all the torches are shut off, and we reveal the crown. Okay, I'll do a couple more moves to give you an idea of what's going on, and then I think we're going to end this. So I will now have to choose which way I want to go. It doesn't really matter. I want to get to the crown though, so I'm going to just go this way. This seems the path of least resistance. So I will battle this guy. Luckily I have the 6 available, so bam, I take out the Cyclops. That worked out really nicely. Normally you lose a life or 2 when you fight them. I was lucky to be in a position to be right adjacent to that 6. Oh, I did that wrong. Okay, hold on. Hold your horses, ladies and gentlemen. I did that wrong. Okay, all the lamps are off, so my movement changes now. I just said this in the beginning of the tutorial. So now when I move, I have to choose which way I'm going and then flip the tile. So I know that there was a goblin on the back side of this one, because I just flipped it. I don't know what's behind here. It's probably not anything good. In fact, one of these Cyclopses is just a Cyclops on the back side, and that's something you learn from playing the game. The first few times you play it, the game is more difficult, but as you play it, you sort of know what different tiles have on the other side, but you'll never truly know because sometimes it's something different. That's why the different layouts really come into play to really expand the replayability of the game. So I don't know what's behind here. So let's just do this since it's a tutorial video. I'm just going to go this way just to take a gamble. Let's flip this tile and see what it is. Yeah, this is the one with the Cyclops on the back side. So I will have to deal with this Cyclops regardless. And then I beat him. Now this returns into a 3. And now I have to decide which way I'm going to go, but I get to flip the tile. Well, one of these eyeballs, I forgot which one it was, had another eye on the other side. And if I remember correctly, there's only one eye like that. So there's a good possibility there's something positive on the other side of this one. So I'm going to go this way. Up, and there is a treasure. So I move to here. I don't touch this. This stays the same now because, as I said, my torches are off. Now the only time I flip is when I go the room I'm going into. So I get a treasure token. I got myself a cross, which is awesome. Next time I land on anything with an eyeball, I can use this and not have to take another spot token. I already got 4 of them. I'm not even halfway through the game. I got a long way to go here. So now I'm going to go this way. Let's see what's on the other side of this. Ooh, another treasure. So this is working out really nicely for me. Take another treasure, and I got another silver. And I will move to here, and I will take the crown. So I'm almost midway to the game. At this point I would have to go back whichever route I want to go and turn these torches back on. That would reveal the ladder, and then I make my way to the ladder. So I'm essentially just about halfway through the game. I'm doing pretty well. I have a good amount of life, but that will change quickly. You'll notice right at the end of the game, it's very tense. You'll have a few moves. If you're lucky to win, you'll have a few lives left, or you might get captured. It's very close. But like I said, the more you play it, the more you get accustomed to these tiles, and you sort of remember what is behind certain tiles, and that will make the game easier for you. So I hate to keep saying it over and over. That's why there is a variety of map layouts that really increase the difficulty and really push it to the limit. So that's basically how the game works. From this point on, I have all the torches are off, so I still have to move flipping tiles before I go to them, and then until I get all these lit again. And then once they're all lit again, I can make a mad dash. I'll know my route and get out of the dungeon, and then I will survive. So that's essentially, and not essentially, it's exactly how Zogar's Revenge plays, and it's a quick game. As you can see, it's about 5 minutes. Once you get good at playing it, you could play it in 10 to 15 minutes. So it's a good break at lunch, or if you have a little bit of time before your friends are coming over for game night and you're by yourself, or maybe you just happen to be an evening by yourself. It's a good solo game. It plays quickly, has a lot of the art and theme of those old classic Dungeons and Dragons type games. So I hope you enjoyed the tutorial. Hope it was informative for you, and I hope you enjoy the game.